Hey guys, welcome to week 9. Apologize for week 8 being missed, but sometimes life gets kind of busy, especially when early November tends to roll around, at least for me. This week's another one in that category, so we're going to go podcast style this week. I'm currently recording this in one take, and I'm just going to upload it. I'm going to probably trim at the beginning and put the footing on the beginning, but that's about all I'm going to do for videos this week. So no insert videos, no cuts when I stumble on somebody's name. You get what you get. Shout out to Derek for his high score last week in week 8. Sorry I missed pumping up your new team name in the week in which you actually made the change. But on to week 9. Week 9's high score went to Alex's Big Al Sr., defeating Chris's improved Chicken Boners 160.3 to 100.2. Alex got an impressive team performance this week, getting 29.6 points from Travis Etienne, 24.1 from Austin Eckler, and 26.5 from Derrick Henry. That is a heck of a running back trio. You had 4 other players manage to put up at least 12 points, and your 2 off games were Amon-Ra St. Brown with 9.5 points and Jason Myers with 8.9. A really dominant week for you as you grabbed the second high score in the season, being the first owner to actually grab a second high score so far this season. It took 9 weeks for somebody to be able to repeat that high scoring effort. For Chris, you got 31.3 from your defense of New England, 25.5 from Justin Jefferson, and a pair of 10-point games from Matt Stafford and Justin Tucker. You finally abandoned the 2 men in a defense name, and the squad was very close to actually matching that this week. However, 2 men, Justin Tucker, and a defense has a better ring to it anyways. You only had 4.8 points on your bench, so there really wasn't much that you could have done to actually change the outcome of this game. Week 9's biggest blowout went to the former Chicken Boners. Now Derek's Now We're Cooking, defeating Aaron's Pickin' So Bad It Hurts 143.6 to 80.4. Derek was led by 30.9 from Kenneth Walker, 24 from Dallas Goedert, and 5 players scoring between 9 and 13 points. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Ramondre Stevenson, and Dalvin Cook. Really the only off game was Harrison Butker's 3.1 points. Aaron got 20 points from Jalen Hurts, Aaron got 20 points from Jalen Hurts, 13.1 from Chris Olave, and 10.1 from Tampa Bay's defense. The Breece Hall injuries really seems to continue to hamper you as you had to start Rex Burkhead at running back 2 this week. His 2.5 points was the best running back performance that you had on the team this week. You have a host of wide receivers with 7 total currently rostered, but outside of Chris Olave, no one scored more than 7 points this week. Now, to be fair, Donovan Peoples-Jones and George Pickens were on bye this week, but the other 5 guys really didn't do much this week. This week's closest game, Brandon's blown call sneaking past Trent's Joe Burt, oh yeah, Kool-Aid man, 109.3 to 108.3, a margin of just a point. Brandon was led by 37.1 from Patrick Mahomes, 21.6 from Christian Kirk, and 17.1 from Curtis Samuel. I've written down as Curtis Samuel. You had absolutely nothing on your bench this week, with 4 players on a bye and Keenan Allen held out with an injury. You did opt to start Darren Waller in the hope that he would play, but that ended up not being the case. Fortunately, his 0 did not cost you. For Trent, you got 30.3 from Tyreek Hill, 19.1 from Joe Burrow, and 15.9 from A.J. Brown. You did get a couple of double-digit games from your special teamers, getting 11.8 from Ryan Suckup and 10.5 from Jacksonville's defense. You gambled on the Taysom Hill Express this week at tight end, but he only put up 1.1 points for you. You could have gotten the win, though, by benching Eno Benjamin in favor of Brian Robinson Jr. That 2.1 point swing would have taken you from a 1-point loss to a 1-point win. Elsewhere, Drew's CMC returns handed Jason's You Suck McBain their second loss of the season, grabbing the win 96.1 to 81. Drew was led by the wide receiver duo of Mecole Hardman with 21.6 and Allen Lazard with 18.7. Kirk Cousins followed that up with 16.4, and your running back combo of Josh Jacobs and Jamal Williams each added double-digit games as well. You did have the only starting player this week who was active and still scored 0, as Tyler Higbee basically went dead quiet in the matchup versus Tampa Bay. It didn't hurt you much in the matchup, as Jason's Evan Ingram only added 1.8 points himself and really kind of offset your bad game. Jason was led by 24.8 points from Josh Allen, 15.6 from Michael Carter, and 12.2 from DeAndre Carter. It looks like it was a pretty bad bye week for you as well this week, with George Kittle, Amari Cooper, and Chase Edmonds all on bye, plus Jamar Chase out of the lineup for a multi-week injury. Only to have Josh Allen actually follow him in that injury situation. Supposedly his elbow injury isn't serious, and he could potentially play this weekend. That'd be really nice, as the only way that Green Bay's corpse of a team seems like it's going to come back this season is if somebody actually starts beating the Vikings, and Green Bay finds a time machine and goes back and doesn't trade Davante Adams to the Raiders. In the Battle of Scots, Bowman defeats Martin this week, as Scott's Gattaca defeats My Car Smells Like the Pits, 92.5 to 87.4. Pope was led by 24.1 points from Tua, 16.2 from Jeff Wilson Jr., and a pair of 10-point games from Chris Godwin and Terry McLaurin. I got a pair of 20-point games from Geno Smith and Travis Kelce, and a 13-point game from T. Higgins. I had the best possible lineup in a week in which I had 3 players on a bye and 1 on IR as well, so that seemed to be a pretty common pattern throughout the league this week. Hey, buddy. You want to come up into the video this week? I'm going to have to let you down, though, because I got to be able to scroll. So, this was a game in which I had running back troubles. Not just me. This was a game in which everybody had running back troubles. I ended up starting Dante Foreman and Deion Jackson, and Pope ended up starting Jeff Wilson Jr. and Chase Huntley. Not a ton of running back talent there. Pope definitely came out ahead with Wilson's 16-point day, leading the scoring in the matchup. Getting James Robinson in for Huntley would have resulted in a 10-point bump to your bottom line. The unique stat for this game was just the fact that it was the first time that I've ever actually seen a Yahoo projection be exactly correct. The Chargers defense was projected for 7.94 points, and that is exactly what they scored for me. It's probably happened to others, but I think it's the first time that I've actually noticed it since we went to fractional scoring a few years ago. And then also, I came to the realization that I probably lost because I cut Derek Carr and didn't change my team name. That's going to have to be rectified before the weekend starts. Lee's unsolicited Dak picks gets a big win over Nick's Tebow Hontus, 143.1 to 137.2. Lee got 39.6 points from Davante Adams, 18.6 from Joshua Palmer, 17.9 from Garrett Wilson, 16.7 from Trevor Lawrence, and 15 from Zach Ertz. Your only down player this week was Evan McPherson, who basically just kicked extra point after Joe Mixon scored every damn drive. The only player who actually scored any points on your bench this week was Kenny Drake, whose 24.9 points would have been an improvement over Raheem Mostert or Antonio Gibson. Fortunately, you didn't need it and get the win to send Nick into last place. Nick, I would say that your bad luck is continuing, but I'm not sure that's exactly the right fit for it. Yes, you've had your 3 best weeks the last 3 weeks, scoring at least 116 points in all 3 of your matchups, and then you lost in all 3 of them. Because your teammates and your opponents have averaged 145 points during that time frame. But you have 2 wins this season, and those 2 wins, you averaged 99 points between those 2 wins. So I think this is fate probably balancing things out a little bit. You had the highest scoring player of anyone this week, and of anyone so far this season, with Joe Mixon putting up a ridiculous 58.1 points on 5 touchdowns and 211 total yards. He pretty much wiped out any fantasy value for anyone else in that entire Bengals offense. Besides Mixon, you got 18-point games from Nick Folk and Juju Smith-Schuster. I think you could have gotten the win here if you'd have swapped out Aaron Rodgers for Derek Carr and Nyheim Hines for Darrell Henderson. And finally, Pope 2.0's Holy Trinity knocks off Tom's Got a Waddle after that deuce, 111.1 to 106.9. Pope 2.0 got 29.8 from Cooper Kupp, 15.3 from Miles Sanders, 14.9 from Rondale Moore, and 12.1 from Justin Herbert. You snagged the win here, but you opted for the wrong bear in your flex, sitting Darnell Mooney for Khalil Herbert, which was a 14-point difference. For Tom, you got 19.5 from Jalen Waddle, 17.5 from Lamar Jackson, 16.9 from Dameon Pierce, and a trio of double-digit other games. You could have grabbed the win in this matchup had you opted to get Justin Fields and his career highlight day in off of your bench. His 45-point outburst would have been enough to coast past Pope 2.0, but it wouldn't have been enough to get the high score this week from Alex. The only really notable fab claim this week was Alex and Scott B fighting over Melvin Gordon's service, with Alex getting the winning bid for 19 over Pope's $15 bid. That guy had all the chances in the world to not be completely shit, and he fumbled them all away as a solo running back. And I can't imagine he's going to get a ton of run with Chase Edmonds coming to town, but I'm usually wrong when I finally get up and cut these guys, so we'll see what happens. This week's wager update. Here's an update on our Suckfest team choices. Unfortunately, nobody seemed to have grabbed Green Bay, which is looking like a huge miss at this point. Aaron has not a huge lead, but Aaron has a commanding lead at this point with only 7 total wins amongst his 3 teams. Somehow I have 2 first-place teams in Seattle and Tennessee, which I'm not super thrilled about. And then Pope, myself, and Nick are all pretty close with 11, 12, and 13 wins total among the 3 of us. That's it for this week. Hope you have a great week, and I will hopefully see you next week for Week 10's recap.